Welcome back to part 2 of episode 12 of I Think You Think. You can find part 1 most likely wherever you found this one, or if you're having trouble, you can find a link to the whole playlist in the underbar. So without further ado, topic 2. So what goes along very well with death is the other thing that you always have to deal with in this life, which is taxes. James, have you filed your taxes yet?
I haven't. I'm hoping to get that done tomorrow, actually. Um, with all the delays on everything, and then I was just kind of waiting, and then just finding the time.
Do you do them yourself, or do you go somewhere and have them done? Or
I've been going to H&R Block for the better part of the last decade.
okay. Did
I
they?
had a friend I had a friend do it once, and I ended up having to pay back like $1,800 to the government. So yeah, we're not playing that game ever again. I just let H&R Block handle it and pay my $40 and whatever, and I'm good to go.
Okay, all right. I've had H&R Block do it for me in the past. I've used their automated service at least once in the past, but predominantly I would say I use TurboTax most of the time. For the last couple of years, that's what I've used. Um, I enjoy it. The one thing I like is that I don't have to download a program or anything anymore. You can just go to their website. You use TurboTax. They keep track of all your stuff online. Um, so from one year to another, like they keep track of everything for you. So there's a lot less information being entered in. Um, one of the My wife and I, because obviously we have kids, we donate a lot of old toys, old clothing, clothes that people bought for them that they never ever nice. They never ever wore, and even still has the original tags and everything on it. We donate all of these things, and the nice thing about donating this stuff is if you keep track of it throughout the year, you can claim that on your taxes and get a small percentage off your tax liability. And one of the other reasons we like TurboTax is the website that we use to keep track of all our donations links with it, and so all we got to do is sign in, and it pulls all the information and throws it into our taxes. We don't have to type anything, because we've done it all throughout the year. So I had a rather unique experience this year because I went to file my taxes on February 3rd, which was actually a little late for me. Normally I file on the 1st because I start doing my taxes at the end of December. When our last paychecks come in, I sign on and start doing everything, and then you normally have to wait until January 30th before you can file because that's when all of the forms normally finally start hitting. Um, so I went to file. It went through like normal. I e-file every year because it's quicker. I get my refund faster. The next about an hour later, I get an email saying that the e-files were refused. So the state one was refused because the federal one was refused, and the federal one was refused because my wife's social security number has already been taxes have already been filed under my wife's social security number. So that started, and it was a Sunday that I'd originally filed. So I had to wait until the next day. I called the IRS, which, if anybody's ever called the IRS, they are a wonderful group of people to talk to. Um, and so I called them, and I figured that the problem was the previous year, my father-in-law had accidentally filed my wife's, I'm sorry, my sister-in-law's taxes under my wife's social security number. And so we went through kind of a very, very minor hassle last year. We didn't have to do much. My father-in-law had to do more. We just had to ignore the letters we were getting that said, "Hey, you filed taxes twice. Why did you do that?" We were just like, "No, we didn't. So don't worry about it." But my father-in-law had to deal with that. But I thought, well, maybe that's the problem. Maybe because that happened, that's why. But the IRS informed me that that's not the case. That there were taxes already filed, were already e-filed under my wife's social security number, um, and so we had to then mail it in. And I only recently mailed it in last week. So from what the IRS told me, we have to we had to mail it in. We have to wait for them to realize that there's a conflict. So the computer somewhere or somebody at some point has to go, the Social Security numbers aren't matching, this isn't right. Then the IRS will send out a letter to us and a letter to the person who accidentally filed using my wife's Social Security number instead of their own, and um, and then we respond, and that person will respond, and finally, when it all gets worked out, then we will finally get our refund check. This this is one of the worst times I've ever had filing taxes. Normally, it's very quick and easy, and I get my refund check in just a couple of weeks.
Yeah, well, I mean, it starts off with a horrible delay, and then, I mean, have you done any research to see if, maybe it's an identity thief of some sort, or are you just presuming that it's just, a fluke?
Well, my initial thought was that it was a fluke. I first thought that was a fluke, and then I talked to one of the IRS agents, and they had said something about transferring me to a department that deals with identity theft and things like that. And so that was the first time I was thinking, I wonder if, somebody's gone after. For the longest time, when my wife and I were rebuilding our credit before we purchased a home, I didn't really worry about identity theft because our credit score was so bad anyway, that nobody could have done anything. It wouldn't have made a difference. Now our credit score has gotten very good. I mean, in owning a home and paying all our bills on time and everything, things have gotten a lot better. And so it didn't really come to mind. I didn't even think about it until after they said something. Uh, every year, you can get a free um, credit history report. You can get a free credit history report every year. It's a federal program or something. And so, in general, every year I do it. I normally do it in November-ish of every year. But this last year I did mine, but I never got around to doing my wife's. So I still had a free credit report that I could do for her. So I did hers because I wanted to make sure everything on there looked fine. There all of the credit any of the credit um, when they run your credit to see if you can get a credit card or anything. They were all ones that I knew about. They were ones that I or my wife had done in getting credit cards for like Christmas and stuff like that. Um, and so there wasn't anything. Everything looked great. There weren't any accounts that I wasn't aware of. And so I don't think that it's a credit that it's an identity theft thing. However, I heard an article on the radio where they were talking about refund um, fraud, where people will file taxes under other people's names and social security numbers to get their refunds.
But how would they get the information on, you know, to file even? And it not, well, I guess it doesn't matter
Yeah, I mean they would.
because you could file with false information, get the check, and then, you know, you're, the victim of this crime is left holding the bag, you know, for what's left unless they can somehow prove what happened.
Yeah, and so I don't know. I know we don't use any like LifeLock or any kind of those credit insurance programs like that. But I don't know. I mean, at this point, it's kind of still up in the air. Where I filed the taxes, I've got to wait to see what happens. I'm assuming, I'm sure this has to happen every year, hundreds of thousands of times, where people just transpose two numbers or just type the wrong social security number. I mean, last year, obviously there was a pretty obvious reason for why my father-in-law accidentally used my wife's social security number and not my sister's, because they're sisters, and it's very easy. Social security. The IRS agent even said that happens a lot.
Yeah.
Um, and I would imagine that people transpose social security numbers a lot too. If they use electronic systems like TurboTax, like H&R Block's electronic filing and things like that, The system is supposed to, it has you enter your social security number 2 or 3 times, and then says, hey, these don't match or these do match or whatever. But, if they wrote it down off their social security card wrong, then it wouldn't matter. You
Right. Well, I think it would come to, for a situation like that, they would have to have entered it wrong at whatever job they got their taxes from, because it's going to show up on those tax forms. And then if they didn't know or double check, maybe it's someone who's young, or I mean, there's any number of things. Hopefully it's just a fluke. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it'll be interesting because we file jointly all the time, and my wife doesn't make a lot in comparison, but the fact that her, it's really weird because I don't know what would then happen. You know, this is really new ground for me. I don't know if if somebody filed under hers and gets her refund. How does that work? What do we do at that point? Do we still file like it didn't happen and we just pretend like it didn't happen, and then we still get our money for the refund, and like, or do we have to go to court over it, or like, I don't know. I have no idea.
Well, it would seem like it would be on the person who filed incorrectly, whether it was intentional or unintentional, to remedy their situation and not at all your fault or responsibility. I mean, it's nothing like it's not like you had any control over it. You know what I mean? So for you to be punished or your return to be delayed would be that would be weird.
Yeah, I know that. From the IRS standpoint, I can at least respect the fact that from their perspective, I could be the person who is filing incorrectly, and that this other person did use the correct social security number, and I'm the guy who's trying to you know uh,
Right, but why would you call them on that, and be like, "Hey, my fake social security number isn't working," you know? But yeah, I mean, why would the person who was doing someone who was falsifying a social security number call the IRS and say, "Hey, my fake social security number isn't working"?
yeah. So I don't know. It was really funny because when I was talking to the one IRS guy, the final guy that I talked to, he 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 sounded very much like this quintessential sort of IRS agent. He was very gruff, wasn't interested in, like, he really didn't care. I mean, the IRS is not really known for their customer service skills because, you have to use the IRS. So what do they care?
Right.
And so really I was just pissed, and I wanted somebody to vent to, and he wasn't going to have any of it. Like, he didn't. He's just like, this is what you got to do. It's like, you got to mail it in. I'm like, there's no way. Like, I can't e-file. I can't. And he's like, nope, just print it up, mail it in. And so, like, I just wanted to try to keep him on the phone because I know he was trying to get off the phone, because it was my only way of feeling like I was like doing anything. And so, like, I kept just I would go around in circles asking sort of the same questions, and it was funny because he was sort of hinting at, but not explicitly saying, but he was sort of hinting at that maybe my wife had gone and filed her taxes without my knowledge.
Oh.
And so, and like, he didn't explicitly say, but he's like, all I can tell you is that her social security number was used to file taxes. That social security number was used to file taxes already, through the e-file system. And I'm like, well, I know it wasn't my wife who did it. And he's like, all I can tell you is,
Well, I would guess that probably happens
oh, I'm
sometimes,
sure, yeah, I'm sure it does. But like, I couldn't get any information. Like, I even said, I was like, well, if it was filed under my wife's social security number, can't she get information regarding those taxes, because she's here with, she can verify her social security number and everything with you guys right now. And she's like, and the guy is like, no, because those taxes are somebody else's. even if they accidentally used my wife's social security number, there's sensitive information in there that I shouldn't have access to. And I completely understand that, provided that it was just an accident. If it's
And that
just
and that's the thing that nobody
right,
knows. Well, one person knows, or whoever on that side knows in a way, at least. If it's an accident, they know they were sincere, and when it comes to them, they'll be like, okay, no, you're right. That's supposed to be 91, not 19 or whatever the swap is. Um, but yeah, I mean, in general, like they don't know yet, and they can't tell you yet.
but see, this is what's weird. If I wasn't the type of person who filed my taxes early, let's say I'm a procrastinator and I wait until the first or second week of April to file my taxes. So this person who has accidentally filed taxes under my wife's social security number will have e-filed. Their taxes would have been accepted or something. I would assume that there's some sort of a check and balance before this point for the IRS where the IRS says, wait a second, this name doesn't match up with this social security number. We need to send a letter off to this person that says, hey, we just need to verify that you wrote in the right name or you wrote in the right social security number or whatever, before they would just issue a refund. Because I would imagine that they've put in, if assuming it's a mistake, their name is correct, their address is correct for this person, but the social security number is wrong. But the job that they work at and everything like that will be correct for the person who made the mistake. So all of the income and everything that they've put in, and all of the, their tax liability and everything will be completely different. But the social security, so like I would imagine that the refund still would be coming from my wife, unless they like put in all of my wife's information. So they'd not only have to have my wife's name and address and social security number, but they'd also have to know all of her information from her W-2 for work.
Which that would be really tricky, unless it was actually someone from her work or something
Right.
like that.
Right.
But that then you're getting, yeah, I'd say that's less than likely, especially if your credit report isn't showing anything odd.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Nothing at all odd. Then I would say chances are that it's just that it's a transposed number somewhere. But it'll be interesting if you end up getting any sort of final knowledge on this. It'd be interesting to revisit it and you know
It kind
let me and our listeners know kind of what actually was the cause of you know this little snafu.
right, right. So I will definitely get back to you and everybody else and let you guys know what happened once it all rolls out. But evidently, when you mail stuff in, it takes like 6 weeks
Right.
before you can even find out what the status of your taxes even are. So, like, whereas if you e-file, you find out what your status is in about 48 to 72 hours. And then, by the next week, about when you should be expecting your refund. Whereas I won't know, I would assume I won't know until sometime at the end of March, pretty much.
Right. Right. But I mean, nothing to be done about it, I suppose.
Yeah, other than complain about it on my podcast.
Indeed. Indeed.
Yeah.
Oh, taxes. Yeah, I should get mine done tomorrow.
Are you expecting a lot back?
Um, no, it's normally pretty snug, like 500 to 1,000, somewhere in there.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Well, you need to have yourself some kids.
I think overall though you lose money on that deal. I don't think you make money having kids. Maybe for the tax return, you get a little bit back, but overall, I think it's more money spent than received having kids. If I'm following it correctly.
Oh, I'm sure you are, since you only get $1,000, $1,000 credit or something. I don't know what it is. I think it's $1,000 credit that you get per kid, and then you get deductions for them being your children for claiming them as dependents.
Right, right.
Get deductions for that. So yeah, but it last year I think my average tax rate was -1.25%. I actually got more back because of the credits than I had originally paid into for my taxes. And then this year it's like 1.75. It's not a negative. It's I actually paid some of the money that was withheld was actually kept to pay taxes.
Ah,
Majority of it back
yeah.
between the credits and everything. I mean, if I didn't have the credits, then I probably would have nothing. We were expecting that money to pay for some of our trip. now now
Yeah, you know.
now we just bump some stuff back, and it won't get paid as quite as soon as we thought. We were going to pay off my wife's car and things like that, but I guess we just will have to continue paying on it for a couple of months. I do think, though, because it takes longer for me to get my refund check, I think that we'll get interest on the refund.
Um, I don't know if that. I don't know when that kicks in.
I don't know either. I do know that when we bought our house and we got in for the $8,000 first time home buyer credit, it took them about 6 months to process everything. And so we ended up with about $100 worth of interest that they gave us on the $8,000.
Right, right. I wonder if. Yeah, who knows? Yeah, that's. I would lean towards no on that, but I could be completely wrong.
I guess we'll find out.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't know. I feel like wrapping things up. What do you think?
Yeah. I feel like we've. I think we're good on this topic, and you've got to tell your little tale of tax filing woe.
Yes, yes, yes. For those out there, make sure you file your taxes early so that you can beat the people who accidentally file under your social security number.
Oh yeah. Let them have the headache.
That's right. Let them have the problem. Um, but yeah, we'll wrap things up. I've got an interview tomorrow morning for a corporate position for the company that I currently work for. So we'll see how that goes. And then in a few more days we leave for Wales by way of Florida, as you may.
Exciting, exciting.
All right, James, you want to wrap up for us tonight?
Well, we combine those two topics because death and taxes, it's a saying. I don't think that's what either of us expected this podcast to be like, but we get a lot of those. The next two podcasts are pre-recorded. If you've been following along with all of these, then you'll know some of the subject matter, and you'll be able to get caught up on our time traveling comments about future podcasts. And then we'll be back with a new live podcast in 3 weeks. So we'll have the two, like from our perspective right now, recording this now, we'll have the two get released from this one. And then there'll be 4 more half-hour episodes to get released over the next 2 weeks after that. And then we'll have a brand new one post Wales vacation.
Yeah, I think I'm just glancing on here. March 13th is
Excellent.
when we're
Excellent.
recording that. We're actually recording the next one.
Exciting.
So, as always, guys, make sure that you like the video, comment, share it with people if you like it. If you don't like it, make sure you comment and tell us why. Please send us an email about how you feel about it, what you don't like, what you do like. Send us an email or message us if you're interested in becoming a guest on the show. If you've got a topic idea, anything you guys want to talk about. That's what we want to talk about. Is what you want to talk about. What you want to hear is what we would like to talk about. So that's pretty much it. It wraps up our 12th episode. and we'll see you guys in a couple of weeks.